You put the steering wheel like that, and that's where it has to stay for the whole corner. So you make one radius out of these 4 apexes. That's the fastest way through here. Coming into this corner, you got the wind from the front. You can brake ultra deep. Our neck is just stronger on the right hand side because we have more circuits going that way. Welcome back to F1 Fridays, and this weekend again an unusual track because we're going to Istanbul Park. Last raced there many years ago. I raced there myself, so I know all the intricacies about this track. And as always, let's start with the opportunity for you to get the top comment on my video and therefore to win a special prize which I'm going to send to you. And the question this week is, because we saw some people like doing a Senna helmet style last week in Imola, so that question is, what for you was the coolest helmet design ever in Formula 1 of all time? I look forward to your answers and of course explain, so you have the chance to get the top comment. Good luck with that, and now let's jump right into the slow lap to explain you all the special details about this track. Before I get going, please make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out. Next week we are going live with my visit to RIMAC in Croatia. I'm buying the RIMAC, so I went there to customize my car and I got to drive the prototype. It was an unbelievable experience. As you know, it's the fastest accelerating road car in the world. It's phenomenal. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when we go live with those videos next week. And now we jump into the slow lap. So coming down the straight here, the wind is usually from north, just a little bit northeast, which is more or less straight ahead. So coming into this corner, you got the wind from the front. You can brake ultra deep. So you brake around 70 and turn in early because that you don't really see the apex. But you have to turn in very early, otherwise you can miss the apex. Hit the apex here as close as possible. A bit of a jump here, so you need to be careful mid-corner. But you can really, fifth gear, take the speed through, run as wide as much as possible on the exit curb there. And then take the speed through uphill here. Okay, now this corner, stay left, so as to then jump in right and position yourself straight for the braking. Short braking, very smooth braking. Don't upset the rear when you brake too hard. Smooth braking, carry the brake. Very soft braking, carry the braking into long and deep into the corner. Sixth gear, fifth gear in the end of the corner. And then middle of the track, fifth, third gear. And then here, again, pretty soft braking. This is a hard corner because the track just drops away massively. So you're going to get a lot of understeer going through the middle of that where the track drops. And then when it drops, boom, the front hooks up and you get that big snap oversteer. So it's a very difficult corner, this one, to get right. So third gear, again, don't use the maximum amount of track on the outside because the exit here is not so important. The exit of the next one is important. So you've got to come out across to the right as quickly as possible again, a bit beyond the middle of the track. And then dive back in, still third gear here, hit the apex, and then take the curb on the exit there, full on power as much as possible. Upshift early to fourth gear, and then flat out. So now the wind starts to be from behind, so it's a difficult braking here. However, you're also braking uphill. So they take each other out kind of, so actually it's still a pretty deep braking here. You can brake around 60 meters, so really late. Downshift fourth gear, brake very deep into this uphill section. You can brake deep, the grip builds up as you're going into the uphill when you're braking, and then just early on the power and use maximum track on the outside here to get up the hill. Okay, now wind kind of from the little bit side, but not really too affecting the entry here. But stay wide. Miss the first part completely. Then you start to hit the apex by the third apex. The third apex, that's the one you have to hit because that's where the corner really tightens up. So you can stay wide going in, and then the third apex is the tightest one. So that's the one you have to hit. And the whole corner here, try and make it one single steering input. Like, you go into the corner, you put the steering wheel like that, and that's where it has to stay for the whole corner. So you make one radius out of these 4 apexes, out of this massively long thing, one radius. That's the fastest way through here. Very difficult. You'll see when you're trying on the game, you're going to be like all over the place, at first. But that's the challenge, one radius, because that's going to be the biggest possible radius, and it's going to let the car flow to the highest possible speed. So that's really crucial. And why? Because every single steering input that you do more is like zigzag, and you're putting extra load, and that's just scrubbing off speed, because the corner is easy flat. So you have to give it the greatest radius possible, let it flow as much as possible. Every extra steering input is going to slow you down. So that's still a bit of a challenge. You stay probably in 6th gear or 7th gear through here. the exit pretty basic. So now coming down here, and especially in the last part of that fast one as well, the wind starts to come all of a sudden as you're turning, comes from the back. So in the race it could be a bit on the edge there at the end of that corner. Okay, down here now, wind from the back now, super difficult, downhill braking, so less grip anyways, wind from the back, so you got to brake early there, you got to brake at about 100. The rear end is going to be very loose here, so, and then here it's very strange, you have to turn in much earlier than you think. If you turn in late, you're never going to get to the apex, so turn in much earlier than you think, because otherwise you're going to have this huge snap oversteer on the entry, so turn in early. It's third gear here, third gear, you can run pretty wide on the exit, because this one's easy flat, this next part, so fourth, and then straight line it, straight line it to have maximum straight line, put as long as possible for the traction, turn as late as possible here onto the straight. Okay, and now upshift perfectly on the lights, very crucial to upshift exactly in the right place, because every 100th counts. Okay, now you come down here, very, very difficult last part here. So you brake at 100 meters, brake at 100 meters, second gear. You can hit the apex here in the first part, then you run a little bit wide, and then you chop back in again, and you stay super tight on the exit of this first part. Then the second part, maybe you can start to upshift in third gear here for the second part, just because it calms the rear a bit. And then again, second part, stay tight. The important thing here is, it's really so difficult to do, because if the front end, is overheated by now, because you're turning and turning and turning. And if you overload the front ever so slightly too much by also putting braking input while steering, then you just overheat the front and you lose the front end and you can't steer into the slow speed corner anymore. So it's very, very important to brake ultra soft, ultra smooth, and maybe even somewhat before the big turn in. So you slow down the speed a little bit. You have to be so sensitive through here, because if you're aggressive, so you brake as late as possible, throw in the front as late as possible, the front end is just going to overheat and just run wide, and you lose so much time. So really have to be smooth, and it was such a struggle here when I used to be F1, driving in F1, because smooth driving in that sense was never really my strength. So it was really a struggle to get the hang of that. And then stay wide for that last one, because the exit here in the last corner is so important. So then stay wide, brake a little bit before the turn in, and then turn in, and then hit the apex, of course, on the inside. And then full on throttle with third gear, accelerating out of the corner. And then that's it. And you got this Ferrari guy here, which we're going to hit. Oh. Okay, and now we're going to jump into the hot lap. I'm going to show you how to drive this track flat out. So that was it with the hot lap, and now we're going to jump into the Q&A session, as always answering your questions. Okay, jumping into the Q&A session now. So Dimitri Skoulos is asking, are anti-clockwise circuits more physically demanding, especially on the neck? That's question 1. And yes, they certainly are, because our neck is just stronger on the right-hand side because we have more circuits going that way. So the left-hand side is weaker, and that's going to be hard. But in this track, for example, I don't think it will be too hard because, like on that triple, quadruple left-hander, turn 8, I think it is, the legendary one, you can just rest your head because it's quite easy flat, and I think it's going to be easy flat in the race as well. So you can just rest your head and then it's fine. So this particular example is going to be not so hard, Istanbul. Question 2, Mustafa Guklu, turn 8 will be flat out. Do you agree? If yes, how will it affect tire wear and G-forces likely affect drivers? Yeah, so turn 8 will be flat out, I think, also in the race. Nevertheless, in the race, it might be worth just lifting a little bit because you're going to be killing the tires in that corner. So it might be worth just doing an easy lift through turn 8 in the race. That's to be seen. Question 3, FLX, you're driving turn 10 with open DRS. How difficult is it driving a corner with open rear wing? Yes, you're right, so turn 10 is with open DRS, but it's not really a corner. It's quite easy flat out. It's actually considered a straight because the FIA would never allow DRS to be used in kind of corners because it's just too dangerous. You'll just lose the car and it's just crazy dangerous. Question 4 from Roldan Boggs. When making the move from Williams to Mercedes, how different did the circuits feel in a new car? What things do you have a look out for when driving a new car for a new team? Yeah, a new car is just always totally different, especially with the development going from one year to the next. Just a lot more grip, understeer, oversteer, also the whole settings, the whole steering wheel, to get used to that, everything. It's a big difference. So it just takes some getting used to. But at the same time, F1 cars are F1 cars. If you're fast in one car, you're going to be fast in the next. Question 5 from Will Bennett. Was the layout of your steering wheel different than Lewis, and if so, why? Yes, we could really customize our steering wheel layout, and I just had preferences because your hands are in this position, so your thumbs can access certain buttons in the best possible way. So I would make sure that those buttons where my thumbs had easy access would be the ones that I'd be using most. And then especially the buttons which are most difficult to access, like the ones right at the bottom of the steering wheel there. And then we also had some buttons behind. And so we had a very custom layout because the team allowed us to do that, and we could just all do our preferences. And as an example, I had my pit lane speed limiter button here, top right. And Lewis had his on his thumb and the steering wheel in the middle. And also DRS was quite a difficult one because DRS, I really didn't like having DRS on the same hand as I was doing the upshifting, because if I was upshifting and at the same time had to time the DRS button right, it could really interfere with the upshift. If, for example, the upshift was like right before the DRS button, it could be really confusing. So for me, it was important to have the DRS on the left-hand side. So those are just some examples. Question 6, if I was ever close to giving up in my Formula 1 career? Yeah, there was moments where I kind of felt like giving up. But what kept me going was just really my dream to win a Formula 1 race and to have success in my sport and ideally also be world champion. But really my dream, first of all, for a long time was, of course, winning just one Formula 1 race. That's it for today. Remember to subscribe. RIMAC content coming up very soon. It's epic. Don't miss out on that. And of course, if you haven't commented yet, comment now. What is your coolest helmet livery of all time in Formula 1? Good luck with that. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.